Hey, soldiers, despite what our government might tell you, the employment situation in America doesn't look too hot. Now, guys, look, we're not a doom and gloom channel. What we do here is we examine the facts that unfortunately so many media outlets and the government don't want to share with the American people. Why? Because they want you to continue spending. They don't want you to understand the gravity of the situation because you, the consumer, make up the bulk of this economy. They can't sell enough weapons to foreign countries to really duplicate the power of the consumer. So you need to know what's going on, and you need to understand that if you do have a W-2 job and you do not couple that with some sort of additional stream of income, you're in jeopardy of losing that main stream of income as this economy slows down. Now, look, I don't want to see anybody lose their job, okay? And fact of the matter is, the minority will face layoffs, okay? It's not like we're going to get into a situation where there's 50% unemployment, I hope. But to those that are laid off, it certainly is impactful. So this is why I always stress that you have got to look at multiple streams of income, and you got to put that together. You also got to do things like consider multi-generational living, okay? Especially these teenagers today, or these young adults, as they come out into the work world, it's a little different than it's a lot different than when I came out. I actually pounded the pavement. I used to go to Kinko's and print up resumes and physically visit office buildings and talk to people and hand them out. And that is how I got my foot in the door of what turned out to eventually be Verizon, okay? And I started out as a part-time telemarketer back in 1994. Part-time, they called it a part-time term telemarketer. Job was not guaranteed for any more than 2 years. But I finished, getting educated. I finished gaining some experience at the low levels of the company with various opportunities. And boom, one day, I left the company as a lobbyist down in D.C. for that company. I think I did pretty well, right? So that pound in the pavement aspect, I don't know if that exists. I don't think that exists for these young folk. So what I'm saying is, there are ways that we have to look at this world today that are a little different than what we've been or how we've been looking at it since the late 50s. Okay, multi-generational families. Okay, if your kids, if you can stand them and they can stand you, why not? Why shouldn't they contribute a little to the household, then save some? Okay, my wife, when she graduated college, she came back home for a couple of years and she paid her mother rent. And then when it was time for her to leave the home, guess what? She found a place and her mother gave her back 75% of what she'd paid in rent. Help her out, Her dad was okay with that. And there you go, okay? So look, I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole before we talk about this job situation. Now, non-farm payrolls printed at just 150,000 jobs. Okay, that's anemic. That's below what they expected, which was 180,000, which is no great shakes in and of itself. It's down by 50% from the September print of 297,000. And that was revised downward. Okay, they love doing that revision thing because it allows them to make a headline initially that says, oh, we got so many jobs are doing great. And then come back 6 weeks later and say, oh, we got to revise that down when nobody's paying attention. Well, this job report, there was apparently no obscuring the fact that it was abysmal. And if they're telling you it's 150,000, then I think we can all agree based on their previous behavior. They've revised the numbers downward every month this year. So I think we can comfortably say that if they've done that, okay, 9 times, January through September, then this October report will be revised down as well. This is no longer a trend. This is just standard operating procedure with these bums, okay? So the other thing that we've got here is, we talked about these relentless downward revisions, okay? Is employment collapsing? Yes, payrolls may still be positive, but the actual change in monthly employment is not positive. In fact, in October, the number of employed Americans collapsed by 348,000 per the household survey. This was the second negative print this year and the seventh negative employment month since the events of 2020 with a certain illness that I'm not going to mention because the algorithm wants me to mention it so they can scuttle this video with all this important information. Not going to do it. So ironically, since then we have seen just one negative payrolls months, which makes sense since the non-farm payrolls number is far less accurate and much more gamed due to its market moving ability. So yeah, they're getting in there, shaking those numbers up. Wall Street's loving it because if you can make yourself look better and stocks can go up, okay, then there's an opportunity for the well-heeled on Wall Street. Now, mind you, we are all Wall Street, okay? If you got a 401k, IRA, any of those qualified accounts, or if you put a little money on the side in a brokerage account, yes, you are Wall Street. If you got a permanent life insurance policy, you're Wall Street, okay? So we're not demonizing the institution because we can make a lot of money with that, right? But there are individuals that play an arbitrage game that is not in our interest, okay? We've got to understand that. All right, so the other thing we've got is a record number of multiple job holders. We got more people who have more jobs. Now, on the one hand, you might say, oh, well, that's a good sign. That means there are a lot of jobs. But then when we go back up and talk about the quality, yes, that is a metric, the quality of the jobs, then we start to understand that, yeah, Americans would rather just work one job and have that job be able to, be able to carry their expenses and have a little left over to purchase assets and enjoy life, right? But we got a record number of multiple job holders. The job composition is what it's known as. Not only was the quantity of jobs poor, the quality was absolutely atrocious. Of the 150,000 jobs added in October, 51,000 or more than a third were government workers, okay? So here we go with this government spending again. And that's not real, all right? That's just taking money out of one pocket, putting it into the other, trying to, make it appear as though we've done something. It's a Potemkin employment situation, okay? It's not real. It's a tax, basically. It's a tax on you and me, and it's a tax on the private sector as well. 99,000 of those jobs, of the remaining 99,000, 89,000 were education and health services workers, with low-paid healthcare and social assistance workers accounting for the vast majority. The remaining jobs were the remaining jobs, 10,000. Included such high-paying sectors as trade and transportation, information, financial activities, and 35,000 job drop in manufacturing. Okay, so yeah, this employment situation is not too rosy. Look, let's just cover this metric, and then I'll give you some things to think about here. The increase in the unemployment rate from 3.8 to 3.9% means that predicting the next recession has been triggered. Of course, this rule, Sam's rule, created by former Fed economist Claudia Sam, posits the start of a recession when the 3-month moving average of the employment rate rises by 0.5 percentage point or more relative to its low during the previous 12 months. And guys, we've got that. The low for joblessness so far this year was 3.4% in August and September. More importantly, it means that there is now a 0.5 percentage point spread from the April low. And while one can wait for the 3MMA to confirm it, we can now go on record as saying that Sam's rule has been activated and the countdown to the next recession has begun. So, look, make sure that you understand where we are. If you work for a small company, you can have a conversation. You've got a better read on the tea leaves of what's going on, okay, in a smaller company. Now, if you work for one of these big companies like I worked for when I was in the work world, Verizon, you can also kind of understand what's going on in your division. There are politics galore in these smaller companies, in these larger companies rather, but you can still kind of, smell a riff. We call it a riff or a reduction in force that might hit you. Um, you got to have multiple streams of income. It's a must for the 21st century where we're at. There's just no question about it. Okay. Number two is you've got to also take a look at expenses and you got to start cutting. I can tell you, I recently cut Sirius satellite radio. Now, I didn't cut it due to a desire to save money, although that is a result of me cutting it. What made me notice it and just not hesitate to cut it was that it, for some reason, in one of the vehicles just wouldn't work anymore. Okay. So I'm like, hey, I can live without it. And I ride around town when I have to go out and do things. And I listen to, my music on my phone or YouTube or something like that. Okay. So got rid of that. Go through it like, one of these corporations would and slash. But remember, you cannot save your way to wealth. So in cutting expenses, also remember to research assets and continue to purchase them where you can, because that's the only way that you're going to play this game and win. Okay? So more to come, guys. I'll talk to you soon.